She never forgot the sound of that knock. Soft, polite, yet heavy enough to make her heart pause mid-beat. It was the kind of knock that carried a story behind it, and she felt it before she even reached the door. Ira stood in the dim hallway, fingers trembling slightly as they brushed against the doorknob. It was nearly midnight, and her husband, Darian, was still working late at the hospital. She wasn't expecting anyone. She wasn't prepared for anyone, and certainly not for who she found on the other side. Her father-in-law, Rowan Hale, stood under the porch light with a worn scarf around his neck and eyes that held far more weariness than she had ever seen on him. He was a man who usually carried steadiness like a second skin. Tonight, he looked as though he had been standing in the cold for hours. "Ira," he greeted softly, "I hope it's not too late." She didn't know why, but the moment she met his eyes, something shifted in her chest, like a quiet understanding passing through the air before either of them spoke another word. "It's all right," she murmured. "Come in." He stepped inside, brushing snow from his shoulders. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The silence felt fragile, like stepping on thin ice. Ira had known Rowan for years, yet never in a moment like this. Never with that look of quiet hesitation. Never with that air of someone carrying words they weren't sure they had the right to speak. He wasn't simply here for company. He was here because something was wrong. Ira warmed a pot of chamomile tea, glancing toward him as he sat at the kitchen counter. His hands were clasped, thumb brushing over his wedding band, a gesture she had seen Darian do many times when something weighed on him. "Did something happen?" she finally asked. Rowan lifted his gaze, and something in his eyes almost made her sit back down. Not fear, not anger, just heaviness. "I needed to talk to you," he said, before talking to him. Her breath stalled. Him? Darian? Her husband? Ira swallowed slowly, fighting the uneasy flutter building in her chest. She didn't want to jump to conclusions. She didn't want to imagine shadows before he even described the shape of them. But the quiet hour, the gentle knock, and the trembling in Rowan's fingertips, all of it whispered that tonight was not an ordinary night. "Is Darian all right?" she asked carefully. "Yes," Rowan answered quickly, reassuringly. "He's fine. This is something else." Ira nodded. He was trying to ease her nerves, but it didn't erase the tension threading through her thoughts. Rowan finally exhaled and looked toward the window, as though gathering himself. "I know it's late, and I'm sorry for that, but I didn't want you to hear this in the wrong way." Her heartbeat climbed. A secret? A mistake? A hidden truth? She wasn't sure which possibility frightened her more. Rowan continued, voice low and steady. "Darian has been carrying something alone for too long, and he believes keeping it from you protects you, but I disagree." The room felt suddenly smaller, not threatening, just filled with too much unspoken weight. Ira pressed her hands together. What is he hiding? Rowan hesitated. That single hesitation told her the truth was not simple, not easy, and not something she could shrug off once it settled into her life. Before Rowan could speak the next words, the kettle whistled sharply behind her, slicing through the stillness like a reminder that, even in tense moments, life continued its small, ordinary motions. Era turned off the stove with shaking hands. Rowan inhaled slowly, bracing himself. "It's about something he didn't tell you, something from before your marriage." Her pulse quickened, and then, just before he revealed anything more, her phone buzzed across the counter. The screen lit up softly in the dark kitchen, displaying a name she didn't expect at that hour. Darian. A call. At almost midnight. Era stared at the glowing screen, breath caught between fear and hope. Rowan whispered, "You should answer." Her hand hovered over the phone, unsure if she was ready for whatever truth waited on the other side of that call. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. She reached for the phone, heart trembling, because she knew that whatever Darian said next would change something between all of them. Era answered the call with a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "Darian," she whispered, trying to sound calm even though her heart felt unsteady. His voice came through warm but strained. "Hey, love, I'm still at the hospital. I might be later than I expected." He didn't sound like a man with a terrible secret. He didn't sound like someone hiding something heartbreaking. He just sounded tired. Exhausted, actually. Yet the way Rowan watched her from across the kitchen made her realize the truth wasn't going to be in Darian's voice. It was going to be in what he didn't say. "That's all right," Era replied softly. "Just come home safely." "I will," Darian murmured. Then, after a pause, "I love you." She closed her eyes. "I love you too." The call ended, leaving behind a silence that felt even heavier than before. Era turned slowly toward Rowan. Her voice shook only slightly. "You said there's something he hasn't told me, something from before we got married." Rowan nodded, the gentle kind of nod that carried compassion, not judgment. He wasn't here to hurt her. He wasn't here to speak out of anger. He was here because something in his heart told him she deserved to know the truth. "Let's sit," Rowan suggested quietly. They moved to the small dining table, the soft glow of a single lamp filling the space with warm, golden light. Outside, snow fell in slow spirals, tapping lightly against the window. It felt like the world had folded into this very moment, just her, Rowan, and an unspoken truth waiting to be opened. "Era," he began, hands wrapped around the warm mug she placed before him. "Darian went through something painful long before he met you, something he thought he could outrun." She listened, her breath gentle and steady, though her chest felt tight. Rowan continued, voice low and steady. "When Darian was much younger, he made a promise he never wanted, but one he felt he owed." Era frowned softly. "What kind of promise?" Rowan hesitated, choosing each word with care. "A promise connected to loss, to someone he cared for, someone who isn't here anymore." Her heart sank, not out of jealousy, but because she sensed this wasn't about romance. This was deeper, older, something carved into the quiet corners of Darian's heart long before she ever walked into his life. "Why wouldn't he tell me?" she asked gently. "Because he thinks telling you would only put weight on your shoulders," Rowan said. "He fears you'll feel responsible, or worse, that you'll see him differently." Era exhaled shakily, fingers brushing the edge of the table. "I would never see him differently." "I know," Rowan's gaze softened, "and that's why I came." "Because he trusts you completely, but he doesn't trust his own heart to stay steady when it comes to this." For the next few minutes, the room felt suspended, quiet, tender, and full of fragile truth. Era finally asked, "Rowan, what was the promise?" His expression shifted with something that looked like sorrow. It was a promise to take care of someone, to be there for a person he felt he failed. She felt her breath catch. "Who?" she whispered. Rowan opened his mouth to answer, but the words seemed too heavy to release all at once. He glanced toward the window again, as if gathering strength from the falling snow. Just as he inhaled to speak, they heard a soft sound from the front porch, a faint crunch of steps on fresh snow. Era froze. Rowan's brows lifted, confusion flickering across his face. No one was supposed to be here. Darian was still at the hospital. It was too late for visitors. Era rose slowly, heart fluttering with a mix of hope and fear. Rowan stood as well. "Stay behind me." She shook her head gently. It might just be the wind. But when she approached the entryway, she saw the shadow of someone standing just outside the frosted glass. Someone waiting. Someone silent. Her breath hitched. Rowan stepped closer, voice low. "Era, who is that?" She reached for the handle with trembling fingers, unsure whether she was ready to see who stood on the other side of the door at this fragile hour. Ira opened the door slowly, bracing herself for anything except what she found. A small package sat on the porch. No visitor, no looming figure, just a simple, weather-dusted box wrapped in brown paper and tied with thin twine. Her breath released in a shaky exhale. Rowan stepped behind her, shoulders relaxing but only slightly. "Did someone drop it off?" "It looks like it," she whispered, glancing toward the empty street. Snow drifted across the road in soft waves, untouched except for a single set of footprints leading away into the darkness. She knelt beside the package, brushing frost from its surface. There was no name, no address, only a single handwritten note beneath the twine. For him. Her heart skipped. "Rowan, it says it's for Darian." Rowan's expression tightened. "Bring it inside, quickly." She lifted the package carefully and stepped back into the warmth of the house. Rowan closed the door behind them, locking it with a soft click. The living room suddenly felt smaller, enclosed, almost too quiet. Ira placed the package on the table. Neither of them reached for it immediately. After a long moment, Rowan murmured, "This doesn't make sense." "Do you think it has to do with the promise?" Ira asked gently. Rowan didn't answer right away. He stared at the box with a look she couldn't place, part worry, part familiarity, part something else entirely. He finally said, "Possibly." Ira swallowed. The weight of the evening felt heavier than she expected. A simple midnight visit had become a chain of unanswered questions. She sat slowly. "Rowan, you should tell me the rest. I need to understand before Darian comes home." Rowan nodded, though the motion carried reluctance. "I will. You deserve clarity, and he deserves someone beside him who understands what he can't bring himself to explain." Ira leaned forward slightly, listening closely as Rowan began again. "Years before you met him, Darian was very close to someone named Leora," Rowan said quietly. "She was gentle, thoughtful, and carried burdens he tried desperately to ease. They were not romantically involved, but they shared a bond that shaped him deeply." Ira felt something twist softly in her chest, an ache, not of jealousy, but of empathy. Rowan continued, voice steady but lined with remembrance. She struggled with heavy grief after losing her parents. Darian tried to support her, but he always feared he wasn't doing enough. He promised her, on a night much like this, that he would always protect whatever mattered most to her. Ira nodded slowly. "And what happened to her?" Rowan's gaze softened with sorrow. "She passed away unexpectedly. Nothing he could have prevented. But Darian never forgave himself for not seeing her pain sooner. That promise he made, he believes he failed." Ira closed her eyes for a moment, letting the truth settle gently around her. Darian, selfless Darian, carried a silent grief she had never known about. "He never told me," she whispered. "He didn't want to bring that weight into your marriage," Rowan said. "He thought leaving the past behind would protect you, but the past doesn't stay still." Ira looked toward the package on the table, the brown paper, the twine, the note, for him. "What if this is connected to her?" she murmured. Rowan's jaw clenched slightly. "It may be." Another moment of silence passed, almost fragile, as if the house itself listened closely. Finally, Rowan reached toward the package. "We need to open this." Ira nodded, but placed a trembling hand on his wrist. "Wait, let Darian be part of this. It belongs to him. Rowan paused, considering her words, then slowly withdrew his hand. You're right, he said softly. Ira reached for her phone, checking the time. Darian should have been home by now. Snow fell harder outside, tapping against the glass in uneven patterns. A strange mix of worry and anticipation curled in her stomach. Rowan stood, walking toward the window. I hope he gets home before the storm worsens. Just as he spoke, the headlights of a car appeared at the end of the street, glowing faintly through the swirling snow. Ira's breath caught. It might be him, Rowan murmured. She stepped closer to the window, watching the distant lights draw nearer in slow, cautious movements. But something felt off. The car didn't pull into their driveway. Instead, it stopped in front of the house, engine humming softly, lights still on. And the driver didn't get out. Ira pressed a hand to her chest. Rowan, she whispered, why isn't the person getting out? Ira stood at the window, her breath light and uneven as she watched the unmoving car. Its headlights cut through the snowfall like two pale moons, steady yet strangely distant. Something about the stillness of it, how not a single door opened, made her pulse tighten. Rowan stepped beside her, his posture quietly protective. That isn't Darian's car, he said gently. She nodded slowly. She knew. She recognized Darian's familiar rattle in the engine from a street away, and this wasn't it. Should we check? She whispered. Rowan took a thoughtful breath. Let's give it a moment. The driver might just be gathering themselves before coming out. But minutes passed. The engine stayed on. No door opened. No window lowered. The figure inside remained only a faint silhouette behind the glass. Ira felt something warm and anxious twist beneath her ribs. Not danger, just anticipation laced with uncertainty. Finally, Rowan moved toward the door. Stay inside, I'll take a look. But Ira touched his arm. Let me come with you. Whoever this is, they left something for Darian. It may be connected. Rowan studied her face carefully, then nodded. They stepped outside together, snow brushing their coats like handfuls of quiet whispers. The cold bit into the air, but Ira barely felt it. Each step toward the idling car made her heart beat louder in her ears. As they approached, the silhouette shifted slightly, as though startled by their presence. Rowan raised his hand in a calm, non-threatening gesture. "Hello there," he called softly. "Are you here to see someone?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then the driver's door opened with a slow, hesitant push. A woman stepped out. She was young, perhaps around Ira's age, with soft, thoughtful eyes and a woven scarf wrapped twice around her neck. Snowflakes clung to her lashes as though she had been sitting there longer than she should have. "Are you Ira Hale?" she asked, her voice trembling but not from the cold. Ira exchanged a glance with Rowan. "Yes, I am." The woman pressed her lips together, gathering courage. "I didn't mean to frighten you. I just wasn't sure how to approach." Rowan's voice softened. "It's very late. How can we help you?" The woman looked between them, eyes filled with a mixture of nervousness and something like hope. "My name is Mia Alden. I think you might know someone I'm connected to." Ira felt a subtle chill unrelated to the weather. "Who?" Mia hesitated only a moment. "Leora Hale." Rowan went still. Every sound, the wind, the snow, the humming engine, felt like it paused in place. Ira whispered, "Leora? Darian's friend?" Mia nodded gently. "Yes, my cousin." The name seemed to hang in the air like a delicate thread, one that bound too many emotions together at once. Rowan's voice, when it finally came, was thick with surprise. "I didn't know Leora had surviving relatives." "She didn't, until recently," Mia explained softly. "I only learned about her after my mother passed. She left letters, and one of them mentioned Leora and a promise a good man once made to her. Ira felt the pieces shifting, quietly, carefully, forming a path toward the very truth Rowan had come to share. Mia opened her coat, pulling out a single envelope. It was worn at the edges, as though it had been held too many times. Snowflakes melted against its surface as she held it out. This, Mia said, was written by Leora shortly before she passed. It was addressed to Darian, but it never reached him. Ira's breath trembled. Rowan accepted the envelope with steady hands, though she could see the ache in his expression. Mia continued gently, "I found it among my mother's belongings. I'm so sorry it took this long. I didn't know where to take it until tonight, when I saw the package on your porch." Ira glanced at Rowan. The package, the letter, the promise, everything was converging. "What is in the package?" Mia asked softly. "I didn't send it, but I feared someone else might have known Leora too." Ira felt a shiver. "We haven't opened it yet." Mia nodded. "Then you should. It may hold answers Darian has been unable to give." As Mia stepped back toward her car, she added, "I'm not here to intrude. I just needed to deliver this. The rest is for your family to understand." She offered a small, gentle smile. Kind, sincere, and filled with a quiet sorrow Era recognized from people who carried love for those long gone. Then Mia stepped inside her car, closed the door, and drove away into the swirling snow, leaving Era and Rowan standing in the silent driveway. Era clutched her coat tightly. "Rowan, what now?" He looked down at the envelope in his hands, the handwriting delicate, almost trembling. "We wait for Darian," he said softly. "This truth must be opened with him." But even as he spoke, Era sensed something shifting behind them, some faint sound inside the house. A door, a step, a presence. She turned, her heart lifting painfully in her chest. Someone was inside. Era stepped toward the house with Rowan close beside her, both moving through the snow as quietly as the storm itself. She could feel warmth seeping through the windows, light spilling onto the porch, yet her heart beat with a strange mixture of hope and dread. Someone was inside. Someone who hadn't been there when they left only moments ago. Rowan opened the door gently, not with force, but with the calm firmness of someone ready to face whatever waited on the other side. Era followed, breath held tight. The living room glowed softly beneath the lamp they'd left on. And there, standing beside the table where the mysterious package lay, was Darian. He looked exhausted, still in his hospital coat, hair dusted lightly with snow. But what struck Ira most was the expression on his face. He wasn't confused. He wasn't scared. He looked resigned, as though he had walked into the house already knowing the truth had finally reached him. "Darian," Ira whispered. He lifted his gaze to her, warm, gentle, but lined with the quiet weight of something he'd carried alone far too long. "I saw Mia leave," he said softly. "I recognized her from a photo Leora once showed me. I never thought I'd see anyone from her family." Rowan approached slowly. "Son, we didn't open anything. We wanted you here." Darian nodded, stepping away from the table as though giving the moment to Era and Rowan. But Ira moved to him immediately, reaching for his hand. He took it, holding her fingers with a tenderness that told her he feared losing her even before anything was said. Era's voice trembled slightly. "We know about the promise." His shoulders tensed just a fraction, but she felt it. Rowan placed the unopened letter on the table. Mia delivered this. It's from Leora, written before she passed. Darian stared at the envelope as if it were a fragile piece of the past he had never been ready to face. Then, with great care, he sat down. Ira sat beside him, fingers still intertwined with his, grounding him. "Open it," she murmured gently. He swallowed, breaking the seal with trembling hands. The silence in the room felt sacred. Darian unfolded the letter slowly. His eyes moved across the page, each line shifting something in his expression: sorrow, tenderness, grief, and then a soft kind of release. When he finally lowered the paper, his voice was low and steady. "She forgives me," he whispered. She says she never blamed me. She thanks me for trying to keep her from feeling alone. She wrote that the promise she asked of me wasn't meant to trap me. It was meant to teach me gentleness." Ira felt her chest tighten with emotion. Darian continued, "She says she hoped one day I'd find someone who gave me the kind of peace I tried to give her, someone who reminded me that my heart still belonged in the world." He looked at Ira, eyes shining. "She hoped I'd find you." Ira pressed his hand to her chest, tears burning at the edges of her eyes. "Darian, why didn't you tell me?" His voice broke slightly. "Because I thought the past would make you see me differently. I thought you'd feel responsible for filling a void that never belonged to you." Rowan stepped closer, his voice gentle. "You carried the memory, son, but memories don't erase the life you've built now." Darian exhaled deeply, as though releasing years of silent guilt all at once. Ira glanced toward the still unopened package. What about that? Darian looked at it thoughtfully. "Let's open it together." Rowan untied the twine, peeling back the paper with care. Inside was a small wooden box, smooth and old, with initials carved on the lid, LH. Darian opened it slowly. Inside lay a delicate silver pendant shaped like a small leaf, worn smooth by time. Beneath it was a folded note in familiar handwriting. Ira held her breath as he opened it. "Darian," he read aloud softly, "this is the last gift I left for you, not to bind you, but to set you free. Wear it only if you need to remember that kindness is not a burden." His voice faltered. "She wanted you to live," Ira whispered, "not to stay in grief." Darian nodded, tears gathering but not falling. "I know. I finally understand." Rowan placed a steady hand on his son's shoulder. "You're allowed peace, Darian. Let tonight be the moment you stop carrying sorrow as your shadow." Ira leaned against him gently, letting him rest his forehead against hers. "I'm here," she said softly, "not to replace anything, just to walk with you." He closed his eyes, relief settling across his features like the quiet snowfall outside. For the first time in years, he wasn't carrying the promise alone. The storm outside softened, as though the world itself exhaled with them, leaving the house wrapped in a stillness filled not with grief but with healing. And in that quiet midnight moment, Ira felt something new settle between them. Not confusion, not fear, but clarity. A beginning shaped by understanding. A future free of shadows.